You can join us live for our next BookFunnel webinar. Check out the link in the description for more details. We hope to see you there. So Linda has a question. Does BookFunnel help us build email lists of readers, or do we use a separate service for that? So good question, Linda. It's kind of relevant to what I just talked about a little bit with building a review team. We don't have a list of readers, right? So BookFunnel does not give you readers. However, there are ways that you can find readers using BookFunnel that would primarily be group promos and author swaps. These are cross-promotional features on BookFunnel, if you're not familiar with how that works. A group promo is where a group of authors come together in the same genre. They all throw a book, one or more books, into the promo, usually for a giveaway, or sometimes if it's a sales promo, these books have to be purchased. They're for sale, they're not free. But still, everybody's throwing a book in, at least one book. And then all the participating authors are expected to share that with their audience, with their newsletter. And so that's a way that you can grow your audience as well. All of those other authors, again, who are in your genre, they're going to send their readers to that promo. Those readers are going to browse the promo landing page where all the books are displayed. And they're maybe going to stumble upon your book and say, hey, that looks interesting. And they join your mailing list to get that free book. And now they're on your mailing list. Swaps work very similar. It's just one-to-one. So instead of a group of authors, you're dealing with just one other author. I recommend you probably start doing swaps after you've built at least a modest-sized list, right? You don't have to have a huge list, but you don't want to do swaps from scratch, if you will. With 0 readers on your mailing list, you will want to have some readers on your mailing list if you're going to start doing swaps. So newsletter promos would be the way to go, and to start with those. Of course, we do have our BookFunnel Basics session on promos specifically. That's that second session in that playlist. Highly recommend you go back and watch that so you see how to join promos, how to find them in your genre. That would be the primary way that you do that in order to find readers. Of course, BookFunnel gives you tools such as email collection pages, similar to the one that I showed. Let me show another one here. So this is just a basic email collection page. And this is a type of landing page that you could put anywhere. You could put this on social media. You can use this in Facebook ads, right? And so this tool allows you to collect emails, right? But the traffic, those readers, how they're going to find this page, that is up to you. So whether or not you put this into BookFunnel group promos or swaps, that's what you can do directly from the dashboard, or you drive ad traffic to it or some other type of traffic to it. That's how those readers are going to discover that. So we have a question from June. Oh, on the sales promos, readers can actually buy your book. Yes, here's how it works. So in sales promos, you use what's called a universal book link. And I'll show one of those here. Of course, I've got to move all the Zoom windows around. Let's see. I think I've got this one should work. Okay. So this is an example of a universal book link. Ignore all of these buttons. I was adding these here as a demo. When we updated universal book links, you would just use the ones that are relevant, where your book is available. So maybe it's only on Amazon. You can just use the Amazon button. You don't need all these buttons, right? But this is an example of a universal book link. They would click the button and then they would be sent to a store to purchase your book. This could be Amazon. This could be any one of these stores. It could be your own direct store where you're sending them. You can even send them to like Kickstarter, send them to Patreon if they're not, necessarily buying, but they're backing your campaign or they're becoming a patron, whatever the case may be. You can send them there. These can even link to things like social media, things like that, if you want to do that as well. It's very flexible how you use these links. But this is the type of landing page that you would then put into a sales promo. And so a sales promo would have links to all of those books in that fashion, and readers would get to browse them, but they would have to buy them. However, they're not buying them on BookFunnel's platform directly. BookFunnel isn't a sales platform. You can use BookFunnel to deliver sales from your online store or your website, but we ourselves are not a sales platform. So readers would just get linked out from BookFunnel to purchase your books elsewhere. So Linda has another question. Do we use this site to sell books? Well, it kind of depends on how you think of it. So are we like Amazon, where you can post your books for sale? Are we a marketplace? No. So we're in that respect, no, you don't use BookFunnel to sell your books in that way. However, what BookFunnel can do is allow you to deliver books from your own website through direct sales delivery. So here I'll just show briefly. These are the platforms that we can connect to. So Fourth Wall, Gumroad, Lemon Squeezy. We added Fourth Wall and Lemon Squeezy somewhat recently. PayHip, Shopify, Thrivecart, and WooCommerce. These sales platforms, if you create an online store to sell your ebooks and your audiobooks, and you connect that store to BookFunnel, BookFunnel will deliver those for you. And there's a lot of reasons why you would want to do this, as opposed to just giving people an EPUB, right? Right? Because you could set up a store on PayHip and just give people the EPUB to download. But there's a few problems with that. Obviously, it's very easy for readers to just share that. Right? They can buy it, share it online. With BookFunnel, you have some tools to at least watermark the files, or in some cases, if you want to, restrict those files so that they can't be downloaded. They have to read them in the BookFunnel app. Very similar to how if they buy it on Amazon, right, they have to read it in their Kindle app or on their Kindle device. You can restrict books in that way too. So that's a reason why you might want to use BookFunnel delivery. The other reason why you'd want to do direct sales delivery through BookFunnel is our support team. So if readers are getting their book from you, they're purchasing it from you. Do you know how to troubleshoot download issues on Kindle? What about a Kindle Paperwhite, an old Kindle Paperwhite, or a Kobo, or a random Android tablet, right? There's a million different variations. And so our support team, highly trained on how to help readers with those issues. It's included with your subscription to BookFunnel. There's no additional fee for BookFunnel reader support. If your readers have issues getting their books, you can send them to us and we can help them from there. So in that respect, you can use BookFunnel to sell books, right? If that makes sense. But we're not a direct marketplace. We help you sell your books, but we don't sell your books for you. So Kevin has a question. Hi. I was checking the newsletter swaps for a certain week for subgenres, but there aren't any swaps available. Are group promos more important here? I am also using another service, but it offers more swaps. So yeah, group promos are probably a little bit more popular on BookFunnel than swaps are. So you'll probably find more of those. If you're using other services, obviously you can just combine those together. If you're finding BookFunnel promos here and you're using swaps from somewhere else, that's totally fine, right? But yeah, there's probably more promos at this time on the definitely, like you can see here, these numbers, right? If you're writing in, for example, romance, there's 816 promos available currently, right? So that's quite a few. Now there's quite a few subgenres there, but generally speaking, yes, that's you're probably going to find more promos depending on what genre you're in. If you're in a smaller genre too, say you're in children's books, promos are probably going to be the way to go. If you're in romance, you'll probably find plenty of authors to swap with. If you're in a smaller genre, you might have to lean on promos a little bit more. Let's see. I think Heather here asks, I use Shopify. It works great with BookFunnel. Customer service is top notch. And when there's an issue with a reader downloading a book, awesome. Heather, I'm glad to hear that. Not a question, but thank you. I'm glad that it's working for you. Carolyn has a question. Do you need to enter, a newsletter in order to build a database? There isn't a relevant newsletter for my genre until September. In the meantime, is it possible to create a landing page and promote on social media? Yes. So you can absolutely create an email collection page or an email sign up page. Actually, here's the one that I was trying to grab another one, but you could use a page like this, post it on social media, grow it from there. You will need, I guess, to the first part of your question, you would want to enter a newsletter promo, I think is what you're trying to say, in order to build a list of readers. Yes. You'll also want to make sure that you have a newsletter service, something like MailerLite, MailChimp, one of those. If there's not a relevant promo in your genre, I'm guessing you're probably in a smaller genre, and that can be the case. Then yeah, creating a landing page and driving traffic to it from social media would be a great way to start building a list in the meantime. And then second question here, do I have to be on a free promo on Amazon to do this, or readers get the copy from BookFunnel for free, even if it's not free on Amazon? Okay, so this is a question. I'm assuming your book is in KDP Select, and you're talking about using a free book. The terminology is escaping me at this moment, but Amazon allows you to set your book for free for a certain window of time when it's in KDP Select. So an important note here about KDP Select. The terms of service for KDP Select basically forbid you from giving away or selling your books that are enrolled in KDP Select. Kindle Unlimited is essentially the same thing on any other platform, right? So they would consider that to be a violation of their terms. So if your book is enrolled in KDP Select, I would not put it into a newsletter promo on BookFunnel. Because if you put it into a newsletter promo on BookFunnel, readers get the book from BookFunnel directly. And so you don't have to line that up with your free days on Amazon. It's something totally separate, but that would technically be violating the terms of KDP Select. So what can you do? Well, there's a few things. First of all, put the book into a sales promo instead. In a sales promo, you're only linking to Amazon on this landing page. The reader's not getting the book from BookFunnel. They're still getting it from Amazon. Amazon doesn't care about that. They don't have a problem with that at all. So you can put it into a sales promo. You can even use your Amazon free days for that if you want to and line it up with that so that some of those readers coming to that promo will still get the book for free on Amazon. So that's totally fine to do that. Something else you can do, and I highly recommend you do, is have a reader magnet. So this would be a separate book that is not the book that's in KDP Select. Use that reader magnet to put into newsletter promos and build your list there with that book. This might be a short story. It doesn't have to be a full book. It could be, there's a number of ways to do this. In fact, we have a webinar on this topic. It's our most popular webinar, the 5 reader magnets every author needs. I highly recommend you check that out. We have a few other webinars on the topic of reader magnets. I think we have one that's a little bit older, but still very relevant, growing your audience with reader magnets. I would recommend checking both of those webinars out for a more in-depth discussion on the topic. But creating a reader magnet and then funneling those readers from there to Amazon is what you'd want to do. That reader magnet essentially allows you to have your cake and eat it too, to give away that reader magnet to grow your list in BookFunnel promos without violating the terms of KDP Select. The other option that some authors choose is to give away a sample instead. This is something that historically Amazon has allowed. At one point, it was on their website, on the KDP website. That verbiage has since been removed, so keep that in mind. Take this with a grain of salt. But generally speaking, it was about 10% of your book. That was what was allowed for you to give away as a sample. So you could give away 10% of your book as a sample on other platforms. However, some authors have tried this and run afoul of the KDP Select terms. What exactly they were doing is kind of hard to determine because you usually don't have all the information. But for the most part, if you're just giving away a sample, this is another option. And this is something we actually talk about in some of those reader magnet webinars, how to use samples, really what they're ideal for. A reader magnet is probably better than a sample, in my opinion, but that is another option, right? So if you're doing a sales promo, yep, they're not going to be joining your list from that. But again, that's why you would want to use a reader magnet instead. That would be kind of the idea. So David has a question. Is DRM an option with BookFunnel? In my case, it would be a link via Shopify. No. So DRM is not compatible with BookFunnel, basically because the files are downloaded and then side-loaded into other devices, and DRM would essentially prevent that. So in addition to that, DRM is actually highly, for a dedicated pirate, DRM is almost meaningless. It's very easy to strip DRM out of files using free software online. People who know how to do that. Even casual pirates know you just download Calibre and you can strip DRM right out of the files. This is common knowledge. So 2 things. That's why we don't use it, right? Because it really is more for the big marketplaces to give kind of a sense of security. It definitely prevents some piracy in that regard. But in order for files to be shared, they cannot have DRM on them. So instead what we do is we watermark files. We watermark EPUB files primarily so that the reader's personal data is added to that file. And then if there's a leak or the book gets pirated or posted somewhere else, you can inform us of that. And we can check those files for the watermark to see who was the source of that. Most of the time, pirated books, in fact, most pirated books on the internet come directly from Amazon, typically from Kindle Unlimited, because those files are very easy to scrape DRM out of and then post on pirate sites. And there's a huge resource of them. Now, that being said, BookFunnel does give you the option to restrict your books. So this is probably as close as we could get to something like DRM, where you'll see here on your delivery settings for your book, readers, it'll say by default, they can download from the BookFunnel app, they can read in their browser, they can download the EPUB, they can email it to themselves. Well, you can disable this. And if you disable this, they will only be able to read in the BookFunnel app. They will only be able to read in the cloud reader. They will not be able to read on most of in these certain devices and these apps, because they're not going to be able to download or email themselves the files. So when we do that, essentially, these are the only options that they have now. And in some cases, that might be what you want to do. So that's not DRM per se. And there's still ways. They can't highlight the text and copy and paste it, but they could take screenshots, right? Somebody who really wants to pirate your book is always going to find a way to do it, unfortunately. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast. But this is an option if you are really concerned about kind of the security aspect of things. It's not DRM, it's not the same thing, but it's as close as we can get. So a question here. So if I have my books on KDP, I'm not permitted to sell it from my website. That's correct. You aren't, well, hold on here. You said KDP. So there's a difference between KDP and KDP Select. So KDP is just Kindle Direct Publishing. You can upload your books to KDP, but not have them enrolled in KDP Select. KDP Select is like the next level, right? You're saying, I'm going to be exclusive to Amazon. That's what KDP Select is. So if you put your book on to KDP and enroll it in KDP Select, then yes, you cannot sell it anywhere else. You cannot give it away anywhere else, right? Again, there's certain little exceptions that are kind of gray areas, like the 10% sample that I mentioned, kind of a gray area. Some people have gotten in trouble doing that sort of thing, but a lot of people don't. The majority of people don't. There's also review copies. That's kind of a gray area as well. Amazon has different representatives from Amazon have said, yes, it's allowed to give away review copies, even if the book is in KDP Select, and some have said no. So there's gray areas there, but for the most part, if we're going to be strictly speaking here, KDP, if your book is in KDP Select, you cannot sell it anywhere else. You cannot give it away anywhere else. But if it's just on KDP, and it's not enrolled in KDP Select, you can go wide, you can put it on any other store. So you can sell on Amazon and sell on other stores and even sell from your own website. It just cannot be enrolled in KDP Select. So that's the big hitch on there, right? Is making sure that it's not in KDP Select specifically, right? Hopefully that's clear. Again, basically KDP Select is just an exclusivity contract for 90 days with Amazon. That's essentially how that works. All right, so I've gotten to the bottom of the questions for now, at least, but we still have some time before we wrap things up. If anybody else has any further questions, feel free to put those in the Zoom chat and we can get to those here before we wrap up. Otherwise, I just want to mention again, if you have any questions after today's session, you can always follow up with us. Just click the help icon here and you can contact BookFunnel support. So while this Q&A is once a month, any questions that you have throughout, right, in between now and our next Q&A, throw those in there and we will help you out with any questions you might have. You can come to us at any time and we are there to help, right? We're there around the clock. Like I said, we try to respond to you as promptly as possible. Our team checks and replies to email multiple times a day. So if you email us, unless it's some super technical issue that our engineering team needs to look into, sometimes those things happen, then you'll usually get a response back from us right away. You'll still get a response back on those other issues. It just might take us a while to resolve certain things. If there's a bug we find or something like that, those kinds of things can happen from time to time. So Carolyn actually has a follow-up question here. For the sales promos, how many clicks from your list qualifies as a good response? I'm running one now and just trying to assess whether I'm going to get a good rating. Okay, so good question, Carolyn. For those of you who might not be familiar, this is what she's talking about. So in group promos, you'll see here on this page, you'll see your promo reputation. Right. This is a demo account. This is not an actual account that gets used. So these reputations here are connected to the pen names on this account. And they don't have much going on here, right? Because we haven't really done any promos on them. But this is where you'll find your reputation if you participate in promos. Basically, when you join a promo, you are given a tracking link. And that tracking link is what you will share with your newsletter. So this is an example of a promo here, a promo landing page. And so you'll have a link to this promo that is unique to you, and you share this with your readers. Now, typically you'll do this in your newsletter, and then they'll click on that link, and BookFunnel will track those clicks. And why do we do this? Why does BookFunnel track all those clicks? Well, you're joining a promo with, let's say, a dozen authors, and the expectation is that everybody's going to bring traffic to that promo. And if everybody does their part, everybody benefits. But what if you have only everybody except for one person who brings traffic to the promo, and one person just does nothing, right? They don't bring traffic. They don't share their link. So essentially they're getting the benefit of being in the promo, but not adding any benefit for anybody else. That's why we keep track of those clicks. And so that's why we do it. And we keep track of those clicks in each promo that you participate in. And then we generate an average of all of those promos that you've participated in. And that is your reputation score. So it's the average amount of traffic that you bring to promos when you participate in them. This means that organizers, when you join their promos, will have an idea of, oh, this person's going to bring around this many clicks. They're probably a good fit, right? So generally speaking, if you're asking how many clicks is good, I have a few guidelines. First, if your list is brand new, if you're just building a mailing list from scratch, and in promos. Highly recommend, I'm gonna come back to the YouTube channel here again, but I highly recommend you check out this short BookFunnel Basics video on growing your list from scratch, because it talks about a method where if you have 0 subscribers, you can use BookFunnel promos and still get a good amount of clicks. It goes into a little bit of detail on that. It's a short video just on that one topic, but I recommend you watch that. Basically, if your list is brand new, you might get just a few clicks, depending on how many readers you have on your list. If they're fresh readers, they just joined your list though, they're probably going to be very engaged. And so anything above 10 at that stage is fine. But what I want you to try to aim for is a little bit higher than that. If you're in a newsletter promo, I want you to aim for about 30 clicks. 30 clicks is like your first goal. You want to get to the point where any newsletter promo you're participating in, you get about 30 clicks. And that's over the course of the whole month. For sales promos get a little less engagement from readers because the books aren't free. So I say aim for about 20 clicks, right? That's the goal you want to aim for. Now you might, if your list is brand new, you might not get there right away. You might have to share the promo more than once with your list to get there, right? But that can be a gauge for you to kind of determine also how many promos you should participate in. If you participate in a promo and you get 30 clicks, great, you're doing a good job. If you get 60 clicks over the course of the month, well, you got more than enough traffic. You can probably add another promo to your rotation each month, and you can start doing 2 promos a month. And you'll probably get somewhere, still probably above 30 clicks, but somewhere in the range of, 40, 50 clicks, something like that, between those 2. Because some readers are going to click on both, and some readers are only going to click on one, or there's diminishing returns the more promos that you participate in. What you really want to avoid is joining a ton of promos all at once. And you really want to avoid that, because if you join, say, a dozen promos and your newsletter has 0 readers on it, what's going to happen is your reputation score, you're probably not going to get very many clicks, and that average is going to be very low. If that average is low, and in fact, if it's low enough, most promos will block you from joining them from the very beginning. So then it makes it very difficult for you to join promos. At that point, we can help authors repair that. So if you're in that situation and your reputation has kind of suffered, maybe you kind of like Icarus, you flew a little too close to the sun, so to speak. We can help you out. We help authors repair their reputation, kind of go through some coaching on how to fix that, right? So it's not like you're left out to dry. But if I would say you don't want to get in that situation in the first place. Try to avoid that. Just do the amount of promos that you can adequately share with your list. We have a few more questions here, and this will probably be the end here before we wrap up. So Heather has a question. Is bulk delivery for a book series? Or, right, question mark there. So bulk delivery is one of our powerful features on BookFunnel. This is available on the Midlist Author Plan and above, that allows you to deliver multiple books to a list of readers. This feature was designed for Kickstarter, but it has a ton of other uses. In fact, in our webinar here at the top of the hour, that's going to be right after this, we're going to be featuring bulk delivery very heavily. Bulk delivery is essentially a great tool for you to deliver rewards to backers. For Kickstarter campaigns, you can deliver rewards to Patreon subscribers. You can deliver ARCs this way. There's lots of things you can use it for, right? And basically you select the books that you want to deliver. You can deliver one, or you can deliver multiple books. I can select as many as I want here. I'll put in, copy and paste my list of email addresses. You can add a note to it if you want to, and then they get delivered to those readers' BookFunnel libraries, and then they just log into BookFunnel to get their books. The BookFunnel app, or in their browser, they can log into their library. They can still get them on any device if you want them to be able to do that. Send it to their Kindle app or what have you. They can still do all that. So it's a multi-use tool. So it could be used, for example, to deliver a book series. If you wanted to, it would just be the context of like, how are you delivering that? Or what are you delivering that for? So we've got a question here. From Joe. I don't have a big list. In fact, it is small and I want to increase it. Will I be able to join a group promo knowing that I don't have many? In most cases, yes. Most group promos are open to newbies, if you will, right? So if your mailing list is relatively small, this is usually not a problem. What I recommend you do is read the requirements and the note from the organizer that will explain what exactly is required. So if there is a requirement for a certain size of list, that will usually be in their promo requirements or the note to the organizer. If not, if you don't see something that explicitly says you must have a list of this size, then you are welcome to join that promo and you should be just fine, right? So even as a beginner, you can join group promos. I recommend newsletter promos, sales promos once you've built a newsletter. right? But do newsletter promos first. So a question here, define what is a low promo number? I think we're talking in terms of clicks. It depends on the size of your list, but I would try to stay out of the single digits in terms of clicks and your average number of clicks. Your average is really what matters because that's what allows you to continue participating in promos, but I would avoid single digits. Aim for 20 to 30 clicks. And then once your list is big enough, 20 to 30 clicks will be easy. And then you don't have to worry about it, right? It's just when you're getting started, it can be a little nerve-wracking, but yeah. Let's see. Last question here, and then we'll have to wrap things up from Carolyn. How do I find out if I got any sales from the promo? You get a report at the end, as it won't be visible on Amazon reports. So unfortunately, we can only give you so much data. So we can tell you how many people viewed your book in that promo. We can't tell you how many purchases occurred. If you kind of track when the promo starts, that's usually when there's the majority of traffic, and you see any change. Sometimes Amazon stats can even lag by a day or so. So you can kind of see the general trend. Amazon, of course, does have their own sort of tracking. I'm blanking on the name here, right? But they have a specific tracking link system that allows you to kind of track purchases. This would not be an Amazon Associates link, although you could use that in this context. This is something different. I'm blanking on the name. I apologize. But if you do a quick Google search, I'm sure you'll be able to find it, that essentially allows you to track where sales came from. So you could create a unique link that you would only use in BookFunnel promos, and you would then be able to see how many sales occurred from that. Yes, an attribution link. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that in the Zoom chat there. Yes, attribution links. Oh boy. See, I was on vacation for part of last month, and that's what happens, right? I'm shaking off the rust here. I appreciate that. Yes, attribution links, Amazon attribution links. In my experience with Amazon attribution links, they are not 100% accurate, but they can give you a little more data than just looking at your sales reports. So that's something to check into in that case. So I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to wrap things up here. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at BookFunnel Support. You can contact us right from your dashboard. Happy to follow up with you on any questions you might have.
Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos from BookFunnel, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.